Good morning. Welcome to the Sunday service of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Urbana-Champaign. Our mission is to build community, seek inspiration, promote justice, and find peace. I am Janet Ravel Barrett, Chair of the Worship Committee, offering a greeting to everyone this morning in your homes as we gather over this holiday weekend, which for so many of us has been unlike any other Thanksgiving weekend we've ever experienced. Last week, Reverend Florence introduced the series Visionary Voices, in which Karen Crawford Sims spoke to the way that we meet the challenges of this time with resilience. This week, many times, I have thought of her advice to lean in, and her observations that human beings are designed for relationships. This Thanksgiving has found us then, keeping those bonds strong by whatever means we had available, in person or through screens, inside or outside, in small groups or in small groups. Gratitude is the theme of our service this morning, which was planned by the Worship Committee with the participation of many others, including an impressive array of cats who were both invited to participate and some uninvited. We were inspired by an essay of David Whyte, an English poet who makes his home in the Pacific Northwest, and whose luminous book of essays, Consolations, explores the meaning of everyday words. This is a book I keep by my bedside, and I find solace in his short but evocative essays almost weekly. Whyte reminds us that gratitude is not a passive response to something we've been given. Gratitude arises from paying attention, from being awake in the presence of everything that lives within and without us. He writes, Thanksgiving happens when our sense of presence meets all other presences. Being unappreciative means that perhaps we are simply not paying attention. My cohort on the Worship Committee, Carrie Fagan-Olmschneider, provided this beautiful cornucopia you see here, which we're using both aesthetically and metaphorically. Throughout the service, you will hear 6 short reflections from Sandy Hannum, the Antonelli family, Amy Hassinger, Sam Bashirs, Ursula Eidelman, and Carrie Fagan-Olmschneider. Think of these offerings as a cornucopia of gratitude, spilling forth in many ways and reflecting the speaker's attention, noticing, being awake. For some of our speakers, you may hear that meeting the world with gratitude is not something that can be taken for granted, and neither does it come easily. You'll hear stories of determination and perseverance to adopt this attitude. Together, these reflections invite us to consider when Thanksgiving happens and how the practice of gratitude lives within us. Each Sunday, we begin with a land acknowledgement of the indigenous nations. Wherever you are listening, please bring to mind the indigenous peoples of your place, and there will be a moment of silence after this acknowledgement. We recognize and acknowledge that we gather today on indigenous land, taken through deception, coercion, and violence. We acknowledge the continued displacement and oppression of Native people and honor their commitments to survival, identity, and the protection of our world. Thank you. Sam Bashirs will lead the chalice lighting, after which you're invited to sing hymn 349, We Gather Together.
Good morning. We light this chalice for all the things that add purpose and enjoyment to our lives. The little things, the medium, and the extra large. Let us hold this light in our hearts so that as the days grow darker and the nights grow longer, we shall still be lit from within.
See already cats. The cornucopia of gratitude will come next. First, we'll turn to Sandy Hannum, who will share her reflection, followed by the Antonelli family, Amelia, Dana, and Mike.
2020 has been a good year for gratitude. Have you ever noticed how some people who have had many losses in their lives seem to be full of gratitude? They know what matters most. Although they've had losses, they're able to focus on the good parts of their lives that they cherish. Feeling gratitude leads to contentment and happiness. I love the way gratitude is expressed in this quote from Stephen Hawking, eminent theoretical physicist who was diagnosed with ALS as a young man. He said, "My expectations were reduced to 0 when I was 21. Everything since then has been a bonus." 2020 has been a year of many losses. The pandemic has caused widespread illness and losses of jobs, businesses, and lives. All of our lives have been diminished because of the inability to be together in our usual social ways. In this pandemic year, I'm grateful to my family and friends for staying in touch with me. I have tremendous gratitude for Jim, who still enjoys my company, and for the small, homey things we do together, like taking walks and looking at trees and the sky. I'm so grateful to our church for the beautiful online services that are holding us together through these long months. I love the little sounds of people gathering and talking at the beginning, even including a cough. I have gratitude for all the small groups in the church that continue to sustain each other throughout, like Soul Matters, the choir, book groups, and so on. We've lost in-person gathering, but we're very much in touch with each other, and it helps tremendously. Our church has also reached out to help people in the community in many ways, and I am most grateful for that. 2020 has been a year of losses of Black lives to police brutality. When George Floyd was murdered by police, outraged people took to the streets in protest. For the first time, many people finally understood that white supremacy is systemic in our society. Black and white people marched together for change. I feel gratitude for all the people working together to make real change in our justice system. 2020 has tested our democracy. After months of writing postcards to voters, amidst worries of mail being backed up and predictions of voter fraud, the election finally happened. I'm so incredibly grateful to all the poll watchers, ballot counters, and people who watched the ballot counters for their stellar work. It went on and on for days, but it was beautiful and transparent. Democracy works. My gratitude to all those people working on the election process knows no bounds. Of course, we have a great deal of work in front of us to heal our divided country. We can expect lots of ups and downs as we work together. Hopefully, we can focus on what is good and feel gratitude.
Hi everyone, I'm Amelia. This is my mom, Dana, and my dad, Micah. We're here to talk about thankfulness, and it's one of the best things in the world. I am thankful for my parents, our pets, nature, iPad, and accessory toys. And what are you thankful for? Talk about it. And thankfulness isn't about food, that's all you know. Your turn.
All right, so you're thankful for, can you say them one more time, the things you're thankful for?
Yeah, it's nature, iPad, our pet, you, toys.
Nature, our pet, your family, toys,
iPad.
and iPad, yeah.
In the pet.
And your pet.
It's ready for yours?
Okay, now it's my turn? Okay.
Yeah.
Ask Mommy what she's thankful for.
What are you thankful for?
Yeah, well, I am very thankful for something right now. Mike and I have, for a very long time, wanted our family to grow and have tried for a very long time. And now, with the help of some wonderful doctors and nurses, we are expecting, which is very exciting. I'm expecting twins. And I am incredibly thankful, but my feelings are a little complicated. It turns out that being pregnant with twins during a pandemic is hard. I'm finding I can be deeply grateful and completely exhausted and overwhelmed and worried about the future all at the same time. But I am very, very grateful for my family and for my growing family. We're very excited about that.
Hold it up straight.
And even with the challenges that are going on right now, I'm grateful that I have a family that really understands, our family really understands the importance of everything going on. I have a sister who has medical issues, who's also pregnant, and everybody, without question, is doing everything they can to keep her safe. And we're really looking forward to next year when this is over and we can have a big family reunion with a lot of new little ones, and Amelia can be a great big sister and big cousin.
Yeah, for Lisa's baby. That's all for the day.
Each Sunday, we bring our shared joys and sorrows to one another. And please remember that you can submit your joys and sorrows each week to the address that you find on your screen. For the most part, I've been in my house for the past 8 months and have not been out in the world. I've found through those months of isolation that this time of joys and sorrows has kept filaments of connection wound with one another. Although I've missed, as many of you have, the chance to celebrate or console one another in person with cheers and hugs and tears, these moments offer us a time to hold one another up in less tangible but no less important ways. Every Sunday, we deepen these heartfelt connections as we sing or harmonize or simply listen in gratitude to this blessing song. Only a few joys and sorrows have come in this morning, although we acknowledge that there are many unspoken and unsent. We hold so many in our arms, in our hands, in our hearts, thinking of the trials that people are undergoing at this time when the virus is spiking and so many concerns are on our hearts. If you submitted a joy or sorrow, and I do not read it today, know that it will be posted later. So first, we start with sorrows from David Gross. I have 2 relatives positive with COVID. A cousin, age 45, who lived in our home off and on in our University of Illinois years, now in San Francisco, has been a COVID long hauler, positive for about 80 days before recovering. A very difficult path with many trips to the ER. Now her father, age 82, another cousin, is COVID positive and in a small hospital in Western Illinois. The larger hospitals are full and not accepting transfers. I've not been with either of these individuals this calendar year. From the Coopers, Chuck and Jan Cooper have a joy to share from Thanksgiving Day. Chuck's son, Nick, and his wife, Krista, delivered a grandson, Wesley Cole. Everyone is healthy, and we are elated. I can just hear the cheers. On the theme of grandchildren, I want to add a hurrah for my own. Just the fact of grandparenthood is a joy in my life, and I brought a specially designed paper turkey as evidence. And finally, from the Hannums, Jim and Sandy, thank you. Thank you, Matt. We are so grateful for the wonderful music Matthew Gladden has provided for us over many years. Love and best wishes for this next chapter of your life. And I think the entire congregation is singing in Hallelujah Chorus that same thought for you, Matthew. We will now have a moment of meditation to hold these persons and others in our hearts. And after that moment of meditation, we'll go back to our cornucopia of gratitude, still full, with reflections by Amy Hassinger and Sam Bashirs.
I have never been much of a plant person. I've left that to my husband Adam, who as an agricultural ecologist has actual training. But all the time at home over the last months has inspired in me a new interest. I have begun to fall in love with our plants. We have a spot on the southern facing wall of our house, which I'm actually sitting right by, with two big windows. This is an area that we call our plant wall. And it's one of the reasons that we bought the house. We have a kind of trough at the bottom that's filled with pebbles where the big plants sit. And then above it, 3 long shelves of thick glass, which hold a collection of similar plants. One day, a couple of months ago, I noticed that several of the plants looked a little mangy. Browned leaves, tangled stems, some of them bulging out of their pots. So I decided to intervene. I spent a Saturday plant bonding. Plant by plant, I tried to identify each one using various sites on the internet, then tended to it according to its needs. I trimmed dead leaves, pruned what needed to be pruned, fertilized, watered. I carried bulging plant pots to the garage where I repotted them in fresh soil and roomier pots, all the while feeling myself grow more and more buoyant. I moved plants with crispy leaves to spots with indirect lighting, and then, when spots began to open up along our plant wall, bought some new plants to fill them. Something about this basic process of paying attention to these living beings that shared my space, of caring for them, helping them to thrive, filled me with a sense of deep calm and well-being. And guess what? They are thriving. Our Schefflera, right behind me here, you can see at the top, has 2 new healthy sprouts for the first time in years. And an aloe cutting that I just sort of stuck in some soil to see what might happen has sprouted several new leaves, as has the asparagus fern and the philodendron that looked like it was about to perish. The one exception is the Dieffenbachia plant that I may have pruned just a little too enthusiastically. We'll see what happens with that one. But now the plant wall is such a lively place that Adam and I sit in front of it often with our laptops, just kind of drinking up the bloom and the sun. And just watching them strive gives me a new kind of pleasure and peace, simple but deep. A pleasure that reminds me of life's irrepressibility, which is a beautiful kind of reminder to have during this grim time. So this Thanksgiving, I am grateful for plants.
Sometimes gratitude comes easily. A sunny day, a fresh breeze, the light on the prairie, a 2-pound kitten being fierce and attacking our 25-pound cat. Any number of things can make me stop and savor the moment and delight in living. Sometimes, however, it's uncomfortable, and sometimes it comes like a slap in the face. Near the top of my laptop screen is a photo of an ant biologist named Christian Peters. A peculiarity of the Mac operating system is that when I open an email attachment, it plops a copy somewhere on the desktop. This particular photo came with an email announcing that Christian had died at the beginning of September. I didn't know him very well. He came from South Africa and spent most of his career in France. We did share a hotel room for a week in 1990 at a conference in Bangalore, India, and we were part of a group camping trip in Victoria, Australia in 1998. I hadn't seen him since. And yet, he's still there, a month and a half later, on my desktop. I have a few scattered memories of him. How he spent much of that week in Bangalore writing a talk that he really didn't want to give and didn't actually know much about. His amusement when I put leaves on a shopping list for the camping trip. That was my shorthand for salad fixings. And at the beach, when someone mentioned sharks, he said that if you are worried about shark attacks, you should never go swimming anywhere, because you would always face that same risk, which after all is tiny. He was good company, and he was keenly interested in ants. I should probably just clear him off the desktop. I think he's still there because he's a reminder that life is short, and I'm grateful to still be here. I also regret not having had more time to spend with him. Christian gave me one kind of reminder about gratitude, but what really got me started here was a different kind of memory altogether. Not about being present, but more about being oblivious. In the summer of 1968, I was at camp in southern Vermont. One morning at the waterfront, a group of us were doing a cleanup and making sure the boats and life-saving gear were all correctly stowed. At one point, a light rain started, and Jim Manning, the waterfront director, asked me to move the belongings of one of the other campers out of the rain and under shelter. To which my smart-ass 12-year-old self came right back with, "Why should I do him a favor?" Jim stared at me and then said, "Great Scott! Why should I do you a favor?" Oh. I had never thought about all the little things people had done for me without being asked or thanked, about how much difference that made, how life is easier doing favors for one another. I'm grateful to Jim for not lecturing me, but he sure did show me. On Tuesday morning before I wrote this, I came out of Schnucks to face a fresh breeze coming from the south, just enough so that I could comfortably roll up my sleeves and with light breaking through the clouds. I felt lifted and grateful to be alive. An hour later, we learned that my stepmother had an episode of arrhythmia the previous night, an abrupt reminder that we have to deal with the uncertainty of her future and my father's, since she takes care of him. Sometimes it's easy, and sometimes you get slapped. There's still much to be grateful for.
Two announcements this morning from Karen Folk. Many, many thanks to all those who shared their visions in dream buffets, on surveys, and at numerous other events over the past 2 years. The Dream Team Task Force celebrates completion of a strategic plan to guide us toward your visions over the next 5 years. Please join us after the service today for an informational meeting on this new plan. If you can't join today, there'll be a second meeting on Monday, December 7th, and the presentation will be recorded. You'll find the plan and Zoom information on the home page of our church website. There'll also be a special congregational meeting on December 20th to vote on adopting the plan, so please study that. If you find yourself grieving a significant loss, please consider being a part of our newly established Grief and Loss group, led by Pastoral Care Associates Jenny Hunt and Alice Engelbretson. It meets on Saturday mornings. Details can also be found on the website and in the e-news. As Unitarian Universalists, we acknowledge that we're part of the sacred web of life, the web of connections with one another, with the wider community, and with the world. In the spirit of these connections, we share our Sunday offering with an organization in alignment with our values. During the month of November, our social action offering will support the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee, or UUSC, dedicated for more than 80 years to bringing justice and hope around the world. The offering will now be received. So beautiful. Thank you for your generosity expressed in this and so many other ways. We have 2 more reflections from Ursula Eidelman and Kiri Fagan-Olmschneider.
Okay, so in the past, I'm not gonna lie, I have struggled with gratitude. It can be a slippery thing to hold on to when your situation is dire, when you're in pain or in danger and it already feels like your world has ended. One of the worst things that was ever told to me is that I should be grateful for having been abused because it made me a stronger person. And that vile, flippant, off the cuff statement made it almost impossible for me to feel gratitude for quite some time. It felt like my whole experience was a punishment and that I didn't deserve basic dignity or safety or comfort or even respect. But that's the trick. I don't have to earn any of those things. Neither do you, neither does anyone. You get that basic level of dignity, comfort, safety, respect, etc., just for being alive. We are all awesome in the original sense of the word. We are tangles of quirk and coincidence. We are the logical, improbable, inevitable result of countless actions, both intentional and accidental, that stretch all the way back to the Big Bang. And at the risk of sounding like a cheesy motivational speaker, can you believe that? Like, can you believe that you are you? And no matter what your theology is grounded in, your God or your goddess, fate, the universe, chaos, Cthulhu, saw fit to unleash you the way you are on the world. And now you get to sculpt yourself and your life into whatever you want. And that thought is what helped me rediscover and redevelop my own capacity for gratitude.
Even before we decided to focus on gratitude as the theme for this service, it had already been on my mind. This has been a stressful year in many ways, but I am the kind of person who doesn't even need a global pandemic to find the pessimism in any situation. My optimist husband and I sometimes play a little game where he names something, and then I name something negative about it. I don't think he's managed to stump me yet. Since it is so easy for me to see problems everywhere I look, it is very easy for me to start worrying about all of those problems, even if they are ones that I don't really have the power to do anything about. Too much worrying about the world's problems never leads anywhere good. So I was already thinking about practicing gratitude in my own life as a counter to my natural tendencies. Because the truth is, despite all the bad things that are going on right now, my life is actually pretty good. I am so much more fortunate than so many people right now. My loved ones are all safe and healthy, and several of them have recently welcomed new babies into the world. I get to spend a lot of time making things. I have 2 kitties who bring me joy every day. So instead of going looking for more problems to worry about, I'm trying to be present with all of my blessings. I'm trying to pay attention. Letting my natural negativity run wild makes it so easy for me to miss what I have right in front of me. I don't want to imply that everyone should be practicing gratitude right now. If you have some challenges going on in your life, practicing gratitude may not be what you need. Some of you may also be naturally more optimistic than me, and you may be more present all of the time. But if you are someone like me who has to really practice gratitude, I hope you can take some time to silence your worries and be present for a while. I have found that in that awareness, I feel truly thankful.
Thanks to all those who contributed to the service this morning, filling this cornucopia of gratitude with reflections and so many other contributions. Although the cornucopia is rather full, it doesn't yet overflow, there's always room for more gratitude in our lives. As we draw this service to a close, consider your sense of presence and take from this morning, perhaps, the thought that gratitude, stemming from Whyte, is not a passive response to the blessings of our lives, but a resilient practice that asks us to reach within as well as outward to enfold one another in its generous space. As we sing our closing hymn, one of my favorites, attend to the poet's acknowledgement that all life is a gift which we are called to use to build the common good and make our own days glad. Happy Thanksgiving indeed.
We extinguish our chalice with these shared words written by Unitarian Universalist minister Reverend Elizabeth Selly Jones. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.